So today we're talking about down payment assistance. So when you close a house, you have your closing costs, which are comprised of your lending fees, your prepaid like insurance and taxes and things that they're going to collect a certain amount of at that time, and other sort of lender allowable expenses. And so you have your down payment, which is a larger chunk of money, and then you have those closing costs. There is a way to get some assistance with those closing costs, and we're going to talk about that today. So one thing that factors into the down payment and the money that you need at closing are taxes. Taxes in Indiana are kind of funny. They're paid in arrears. So that means that when you close on a house on that day of closing, the title company figures out and prorates the taxes to the day of closing. So the seller's going to be giving you a credit for you to use to pay the tax bill when it comes. So what that means, it's not free money. That money is allotted for the taxes, but you receive it at the closing, sort of paying it forward for when you receive that tax bill in the future. So what is nice is that that sometimes offsets a little bit of the cash that you have to bring to closing, so that you don't have to bring quite as much to the closing when you've kind of spent all this time kind of scraping together all your funds for the closing and down payment. The other part of closing costs that can be covered is when you write your purchase agreement, you can actually have the seller cover some of your closing costs. It's pretty standard and customary. There's a place on the purchase agreement for it. You can have them cover the cost of your realtor. You can have them cover your other closing costs, which can be prepaids on your homeowner's insurance. Typically, the lender's going to want that paid, that first year paid in advance. Some of your taxes, if you buy a place that has a homeowners association, some of those dues need to be paid ahead of time. And they basically create what's called an escrow account. And that escrow account basically holds a bit of money that gets pulled, just like your down payment, to cover your taxes and insurance. So that's all kind of pre-collected to get that fund started, that escrow account started, and then your taxes and things come out of that typically. So the seller can pay for some of that, and we're going to talk about that. So closing costs can be asked for by the buyer from the seller to cover some of their expenses. There are some limits on how much can be given to the buyer, and it depends on the type of loan and different things like that. So we can talk to your lender about what is allowed to maximize that seller concession. There's also a lot of really creative ways to use that seller concession if your closing costs aren't that much, but you still have an allotment that you can try and use. And we could ask that seller for closing costs that could then be applied to like buy down your interest rate so that you're lowering your interest rate. And so working with your lender and with your realtor to just kind of try and maximize those seller concessions is just the best way to approach things. We could